Today, I'm looking at the Sony ZV-E10. This is a vlogging camera, according to Sony. That's the kind of market they're pushing it at here. But I've decided to pick up one of these just because it's fairly cheap and cheerful as far as mirrorless cameras go, as far as Sony Alpha mirrorless cameras go. And I just wanted to kind of, dip my toe in the water, so to speak, on Sony mirrorless cameras and just sort of see how they perform. So far, after 2 weeks of use, I have to say that I'm really, really impressed with it. There's stuff I don't like, but all I'm going to do today is just walk around the camera, give you a close-up look at it, and talk about the things that I like and don't like, just generally based on the physical stuff, but of course I might mention other stuff as well. So let's just start with the front here. On the front we have the kit lens, the one that came with this camera. This is a 16 to 50 mm 3.5 to 5.6. 16 to 50 mm sounds very wide. When you take into account the 35 mm equivalent and also all the cropping factors that go on in this camera, this lens isn't quite wide enough for use in 4K on this camera. It's good enough for use in HD, but if you're going to use 4K and you need to use active stabilization, it's not really wide enough as far as I'm concerned. But it is a pretty nice lens. I mean, it's fairly plasticky, and it's just a budget lens, and you can see from the, it's just a really kind of small thing. It doesn't sort of look massively impressive as lenses go, but as far as image quality goes, it's absolutely perfectly suitable for the use that most people will have for this camera. So let's just take a look. One of the big selling points about this camera, I think, is that it's the APS-C sensor. And the ZV does that have a 1? I think that has a 1-inch sensor on it. So, sorry, the ZV-F has a 1-inch sensor on it. But the ZV-E10 has this APS-C sensor on. So what you get in there, obviously, is better low light performance. You've got the ability to, even at 16 mm, get a nice sort of gentle background blur. This is a shot at 16 mm. I'm about 30 centimeters, so about 1 foot away from the camera. This is recording in 4K. I don't have any stabilization activated at the moment, so this is the sort of widest shot that I can get on this camera in 4K. But you can see that even at 16 mm, we do have a slight sort of drop of so background sort of slightly out of focus compared to my face, which is nice. It just kind of softens everything in the background just a little bit, and the APS-C sensor is a big help with that. So let's just have a look at the lens here. So yeah, very, very small, very basic stuff. And this is used to zoom. It's pretty clumsy, that, actually, to zoom. And there's a focus ring as well, but this ring can be used for other things too. It's not just used as a focus ring, but it's a pretty slim and lightweight lens. Despite it being budget, all this is, of course, really nicely made. It's strong metal. The mount, the E-mount here, as it is, the Sony E-mount, is perfectly sturdy enough to fit other lenses on. And I've also tried this with a lens converter from E-mount to Canon EF, and I've put sort of my 85mm lens on the front of here. That thing weighs a ton, and it's perfectly happy. Of course, the camera sort of pales into insignificance compared to a lens like that, but you just hold it then more with the lens rather than holding onto the camera. But this is strong. It's strong enough, there's no problem with it at all. All right, so nothing else on the front. This is a kind of rubber finish grip here, and people talk about this and say that this is plasticky. I really like this, actually. I think this really adds a good sort of premium feel to it. Again, it's one of those sort of rubbery things where I kind of think, over time, how well is this going to last? Not too sure on that, but I think the camera overall feels much, much better in the hand than I was expecting when I looked at a few reviews, when I read a bit about it. People saying, oh yeah, it's pretty plasticky. And yeah, sure it is. If I compare this to my Canon 5D, it feels like a plasticky camera. But don't get me wrong, this is nice. This is really kind of sturdy in the hand. There's no creaks, it feels great. And this, yeah, well, I'll carry on going around, and we'll so nothing down the side here apart from the strap. Again, as I say, this video is just my opinion, all right? So I can do nothing more than that. There are plenty of videos out there on YouTube already where people do tests and pixel peeping and all that type of thing. I'm just here today to give you my opinion because, you know, I don't get sent these things for review. So I'm just going to tell you what I think about the camera, and you can, you know, base your decision on that if you wish, or ask me any questions in the comments or whatever you want. So here's the hot shoe. And it isn't just a hot shoe. It does have the Sony kind of, is it Sony MI they call that? I think. So you can fit Sony devices to this, like microphones and things, which would then pass power and pass audio all through the connector in there. And I've never done that before. I don't have any devices that fit that, but I can imagine that is incredibly useful and makes things really nice and simple. But having the hot shoe on there, good place for it that I've found. It's a pretty reasonable place. It's a really nice solid hot shoe connector, which it sort of needs to be because it is a hot shoe rather than, or it has got all this stuff rather than it just being a basic cold shoe adapter, which of course could be made to be plastic. And then we've got this microphone here, and a lot of people rave about this microphone and say, well, this camera's great because it's got this mic on top, and then you get this in the box, you get this little thing like this which fits over the hot shoe like this. And then you've got nice sort of wind protection on there, and you can just use that mic. Well, I don't know. I'm not a big fan, really. I don't find the sound on this. It's okay, but it really isn't anything compared to just getting a separate third-party little kind of tiny kind of shotgun mount like this. Shotgun mic, sorry. So fit something like this to the top of the camera. It adds virtually no weight, and this can fit into the mic socket at the side. Firstly, let's take a listen to the audio on the camera itself. So this is the mic that people sort of seem to rave about and say is really good, and I don't know, I don't think it's quite good enough for the type of filming that most people are going to want to do with this camera. Also, it doesn't have any kind of shock mounting from the rest of the camera, so if I'm handling the camera like this, I mean, maybe that's an extreme example, but you're going to get noise transferred from the internal mechanism potentially, or just handling noise on the camera. This is an example of the audio using a dedicated small shotgun mic on the top of the camera rather than the built-in mic. So I kind of think you'll agree, not only does it sound better, but also because you've got a little shock mount on it as well, if I'm handling the camera like this, you're not going to get as much noise transferred through to your shot. They've put a dedicated on-off button on the top here, and I think this is great. I think the way they've actually implemented this that's the potential to break, because it's just a plastic kind of button down to a switch below, from what I can tell. And these things, I've had other devices where this kind of solution has broken over time. You can just imagine that kind of little, see the bit of movement in there. Not the most sturdy way of doing it, I don't think, but it's very welcome to have a nice, simple, easy button on the top here, because a lot of the time you're going to be using the camera facing you like this, and you just want to make sure it's off, so you just reach the top, just flick it across, reach the top. You're not kind of having to mess about with the back of the camera or anything like that to make sure that it's turned off. Again here, dedicated video start-stop button. So the video start-stop's got nothing to do with the shutter button. Dedicated video start-stop, and that so far I've found to be really, really useful. This button here switches between camera, video, and slow and quick motion, is that, I think? So the higher frame rate stuff with Sony cameras. It'd be nice if you could just disable this, because when you're switching between these two, I don't think there's a way of doing that, but it'd be nice to be able to just say, well, I don't really want to use this ever, just have this button switch between these two. And this is our custom one button, but by default this is set to your background defocus versus background clear mode, and really all this does is a very quick and easy button to just open up the aperture to its maximum, the maximum it can do in whatever zoom it's in, to give you the most amount of background blur that the lens can do at that particular moment. There's no software background sort of blurring going on here, so you don't need to worry about bad face or hair outlines or anything like that as you get with portrait modes on phones. This is just designed to open up the aperture and use physics, use optics and the physics of optics to provide you with the best background blur that it can. This is the standard button here that can be set to go between, shutter speeds or apertures or whatever. And this is a really nice, sturdy metal button. I like this. It's, a little bit fiddly to use, but pretty good. Zoom rocker at the top here, and zoom on this is pretty rubbish. It's, of course, you can zoom in, but it's not going to be very smooth, and it doesn't give great results. And then just your shutter button there, nice and easy. Taking a look at the back of the camera now. This is the nice articulating screen, and again, this feels much more sturdy than I thought it would. So this is fully articulating and clips back in place like that, or if you do want to, for extra protection, you can fit it back in place like that too, to protect the screen, but most of the time you're probably going to want to just do it like that. And it works great. I'm really happy with the screen, and it's the fact it's not probably not waterproof. It's not it hasn't got the rigidity of a pro camera, but absolutely fine for a £700 sort of fairly basic camera like this. Simple menu button there, function button. The function button takes you into, if I just turn it on, I'll show you here. So the function button just takes you into all your kind of main settings fairly quickly and easily. And then we have the worst thing on the camera completely. Without doubt, this is the worst thing on the camera. This is the Sony's button used to rotate through menus and rotate through options, and also this is quite possibly the worst designed button I have ever used. It's awful. So it has 4 multifunctions around the side, so you can click here to go into your sort of shooting mode, so kind of burst mode or whatever, and then you can change your display, so what information on the display, go change your ISO and change your exposure compensation here. But this is also a turning button as well. But the problem is when you the amount of pressure that you have to put on this button to turn it means that you push it to get into one of these other things. Absolutely stupid. It's completely stupid. So you kind of end up having to use your nail like this just to get into these, to just kind of scrape it around like that, so you're not applying any pressure to it. And then you can go to the bit you want, and you can obviously sort of execute by pressing this middle button too. But this needs to be totally separate, right? It absolutely stupid design. It, without doubt, the worst thing on this camera. And then obviously your playback button there, and also your bin, but the bin doubles up as a product showcase button. So the idea of the product showcase feature is that if you're showing something and it's detecting your face, it's detecting your eyes, as the Sonys do so well. If you've got this enabled, it will then recognize if you're holding something up close to the camera and refocus on that, because there is a tendency with cameras that are detecting faces to really lock onto those faces. So if you hold something up, then it just goes, no, I'm staying on the face. I'm staying on the face. But when this is enabled, it then sort of shifts that priority and sort of says, right, I've seen something closer, I'm going to focus on that, so you can hold something up and show it to your audience. Let's give this a quick try. So imagine I'm talking to camera about a product and I hold up the product like this. Well, the issue we have now is that it's still locking on my eye. So this is out of focus, right? Well, let's just turn on Product Showcase, which I can't do while it's recording, I have now discovered. So let's just switch that off. Kind of seems odd that you can't do that while you're recording, but okay. And let's give that another try now, so I can hold this up. And there we go, look, it's found that. So even though it's got me in the background, I'm now slightly out of focus because of the larger sensor. So let's see how close we can bring this. There we are. So it's happily keeping its focus on the product until I move it away, and then it'll go back and focus on my face again. On the bottom here, standard quarter 20, nicely made. This is sturdy. One of the things I had with an old Sony camera is that this just got brittle over time and started pulling away from the fixtures, and I can kind of see that happening here with repeated use. And the thing with a camera like this is you are changing how you mount it and changing where you put it quite a bit over time. So yeah, this is going to possibly get a bit worn, but it feels okay, not bad. Moving on, we've got our battery door here, and oddly, I'm kind of more used to battery doors like this being click shut. So you click them shut, but you have to actually shut it and move this over to lock it like that. Don't know why that bugs me, but does a little bit. Not sure. I'm getting used to it, right? And the batteries it takes are just these tiny little things. But it can be... I'll just give you the exact model of these. So the NP-FW50 is the battery that comes with the camera. It just clips in nicely like that. You get a reasonable amount of shooting time on this. It's not going to be loads, probably like an hour or two at the most, I would have thought. But you can also charge it with USB like this. So they provide a USB charger, so USB out of this side and mains in. Sort of a C7 mains connector in on this side, and also a USB cable because, well, I'll get around to that in a second. We'll have a look at the ports in a moment. And then you've got the SD card slot there. And good thing about this now is that you can get into this even when you've got something fitted onto here. All right, we're nearly finished. Let's have a look around the side here at our ports. So we just got two ports, two doors rather, at the side. One is for a microphone, and it's a plug-in power microphone, so you can use something, as I say, like this shotgun here, which has no battery internally, keeps it really lightweight, and the power is provided from this socket. Of course, this isn't phantom power stuff, this isn't 48 volt stuff, but there is some power being pushed up the cable there into whichever device you connect onto there. And then this port here has your headphone socket, micro HDMI, of course. Camera this size, you'll be lucky to get a full-size HDMI connector, but these are fine as long as you take care, they're okay. And USB, and again, yes, you can charge it while you're using the camera, so you can effectively power this camera by USB. It doesn't actually power it really by USB, or at least maybe I think there is an option in the menu to say, can you do USB power, but whatever. You can have this plugged into USB and have it on permanently because you've got USB connected. So all good. And these doors are a bit plasticky, but they're okay. They do the job. So the only thing I'm not too fond of with these ports is the fact that when you open up the door like this, well, they're kind of in the way. If I plug in power now, so I've got my USB cable here for power, well, now my screen is blocked by that USB cable. So if I've got a mic in as well, we've now got a camera that has its screen pretty much blocked by cables. Not really ideal, is it? But again, it's a small camera, and I think the fact that we've got the ports on there, we can use permanent USB power and has a microphone in, headphone in. I haven't even tried with a headphone in as well. But chances are if you're using a headphone in, you're going to be the one filming, and you're going to have the screen the other way around, so no biggie. But there we go. There's just a quick look around the Sony camera. What do I like about it? Image quality is really, really good. I'm really impressed with the image quality. It is a bit fiddly to use. The menu system is not great. The changing simple things like going from manual focus to autofocus is a menu option. I don't know if you can assign that to a button. Maybe you can. I've only used this for kind of not quite 2 weeks. So maybe there are ways of doing that. And it's quite fiddly, right? It's a fiddly camera to use, but the results are great. The focus is really good, and even the kit lens I've been really, really impressed with. So I'll leave it at that. If you've got any questions on the actual sort of physical stuff on the camera, I'll no doubt be doing other videos on this in the future, just looking at various features or whatever. But if you've got any questions on it whatsoever, anything you want to fire at me, do so in the comments, and if I can answer it, I'll get back to you within about 24 hours or so. And I'll put links to the camera in the video description. If you'd like to support the channel, please use those, or use them for anything. In fact, if you're looking to buy anything on Amazon, that would be much appreciated. But it's up to you. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.